Right, hello, welcome guys, and in this tutorial video I will be demonstrating how to use Linux privilege escalation scripts to enumerate and find possible Linux privilege escalation paths to elevate from a low privilege user to a root shell. So in this classic example, we logged into a Linux Kong virtual machine, which I gave you in the tutorial classes, and we got this user called James, who happens to be a low privilege user. As you can tell from the $ prompt here, that tells you this is a low privilege user shell. All right. So if we try to go into the root directory, we get a permission denied, and that's because James is not the root user. So once you have a low privilege shell, you might want to enumerate for possible privilege escalation paths. If you go into your Linux Kali machine, go into the tools directory and do a list, you find two Linux enumeration scripts for privilege escalation. One is called linenum and one is called LINPEAS. You can use either of these scripts depending on your preference. So let's have a look at this linenum sh first. What I can do is I could simply cut this file linenum.sh, and it's a very long script. It's a bash script, and we can download this file to our target virtual machine or the target shell and use that script to sort of enumerate for Linux privilege escalation vulnerabilities. So what I'll do is I'll use python 3-m http.server, and I could do port 9001. I'll start up a Python server on my Kali Linux machine. I'll go on here, probably want to go to a directory I can always write to, so that's why I'm going to the temp directory on the Kong virtual machine. I'll do a wget http IP address of my Kali machine. So the IP address of my Kali machine. If you don't know, just confirm what it is, and I'll do an if config. Get the IP address. Remember, this Python server is running on port 9001. So on our Kali or on our Kong virtual machine, we do that, :9001, and then the name of the script that we want to pull down or download. So in this scenario, first we want to use the linenum.sh. So copy the name of the script, go over here and paste that in, click on enter, and now we can see we've downloaded the script. If we do a list, we have the script linenum.sh. I could do chmod.x and linenum. Then I could use bash to execute the script, and you can see local Linux privilege escalation script, and this script now is enumerating to find possible parts that I could exploit for privilege escalation. So you can see the name of the script is a local Linux privilege escalation script, and it's told us the kernel version. So you might want to do some sort of exploit database search to see, or search exploit to see if there's a vulnerability for this specific Linux version. As you can see, Linux version 2.6, that's the kernel. We have some other information about the user James, blah blah blah. So it depends on your preference. Linenum also tries to tell you different sort of stuff. So it says accounts that have recently used sudo, we have that. Some basic information, cron jobs, and different file information. This is not quite my favorite tool to use, but if this is something that you find useful, you can also use it. As you can see, it tells us different sort of SUID binaries. Tells us some of the commands that the user has run before. And the enumeration continues, but this is not my favorite script. So I do prefer the other script, which is the LINPEAS So this is the other file that we can download. So let's clear screen. We'll run the same command. This time around, I will go for the LINPEAS.sh. We have the script. As you can see, we could probably just run bash LINPEAS. And I like this because it actually color codes the possible privilege escalation vectors. So red and yellow, 95% privilege escalation vector. Red, you should take a look at it. So give this a bit of time to run, and then when it finishes, we'll have a look at the results. Right, so our script has finished running, and what we need to do is to look at the results. So I'm going to scroll back to the very top. Okay, so we'll start to look at this one at a time. We have basic information, and it tells us the Linux version highlighted in red. All right, so if I put in this Linux version into exploit database, and search, all right, so I can't copy and paste, so let's just type this in Linux 2.6. We see here there are some privilege escalations associated with Linux kernel version 2.6. The version here we have is 2.6.24. So this will probably work. You can see it's verified. And we have a net filter local privilege escalation affecting Linux kernel 2.2619 or 5.9 below and below. All right. So between 5.9 and below up onto 2.19, and if we have a look at this is 2.24. Definitely this exploit, I'm assuming, is going to work because our Linux kernel matches this specific exploit. So you can see this is the instruction by the user on how to compile this exploit and use it. All right. So it might work out of the box. Sometimes it might not work depending on some sort of issues that you might have. You just have to try it and see. So that's how all of these exploits sort of trial and errors. Okay, so let's have a look, keep going. So we have the Linux kernel version, and another vulnerability here is that this specific virtual machine is running sudo version 1.6.9. So let's go again into exploit database and do sudo paste, not again, can't copy and paste, so we'll do sudo 1.6.9. As you can see, we have a Linux privilege escalation that affects sudo or sudo edit 1.6.9 p21 up until 1.7.2 p4, and from our results 1.6.9 p10. So this specific vulnerability should work, because if we have a look at this affects this specific version of sudo, and the one we happen to have, as you can see here, before this specific version. So all sudos between 1.6x before this should work, and the description actually matches this. So this is the exploit, just a very short bash script. So because we don't have internet access on our Kali machine, I mentioned that we could use search exploit. So let's look for that exploit in search exploit. Search exploit, and we look for sudo 1.6. So this is the same exploit. There are other ones as well. All right, sudo edit, sudo 1.9, for different sort of pseudo versions, but this appears to be the one that we are after. So we copy the path, and in our tools directory, we run search exploit -m to copy that exploit. And now if we do a list, we have this exploit script here. So this is the exploit script, the same scripts that we have here. If you could copy and paste, it's just a case of copying this and putting this into a file. But we have it locally now on our Kali machine. Now we need to find a way to move this exploit to the Kong virtual machine. So just like we did previously, clear screen, we can use wget to download. So we know our Python server is running in the tools directory, and we have this specific file in the tools directory. Now we can just download this file called 11651.sh. And we download that onto our vulnerable target. If you go to list, we have the file. Right? So we can execute this file. Either you make it executable or we just run bash, because we know it is a bash script. .sh. And here we can see the instructions on how to run it. So the name of the file .sh, sudo exploits.sh. And then we have to give it a file you have permission to edit. So in order to create a file we can edit, we might have to create that file name. All right, so we use the command touch, and we can create any file like, jerry.txt, whatever you want. All right, so we have a file named jerry.txt. All right, now we have to run this exploit and provide the name of the file. All right, so we could do bash 11651.sh, and then we'll provide the file jerry.txt, and we click on enter. Now the exploit is running, and at some point it's going to tell us to provide the password for the James user. So this is assuming we already know the name for the James user in this sort of example. And the password is Aston Martin, lowercase, all in one word. So Aston Martin, click on enter, and you can see we got a shell. So now we've exploited that pseudo vulnerability that we found, version 1.6. We downloaded an exploit we found on exploit database, and we also, we know we have a copy of this specific exploit on search exploit. We downloaded it onto our target. We followed the instructions. We executed the script. Now we have a root shell. If we go on to cd/root and then list, we have the proof file.txt. Now we can just cat that file to read the contents of the file. And in this scenario, this is the flag or the contents of that file. All right. So LINPEAS, in a nutshell, the Linux privilege escalation script LINPEAS finds possible exploit parts that we can use. In some scenarios, you can find something else. It might be an SUID binary, and all you have to do is to investigate that specific vulnerability that's found, see if there's an exploit, and use it. All right, so I hope this video helps. Thank you. Bye for now.